who actually died in the Civil War. His family got on a covered wagon and came west, and they wound up. Then went on to college as a young lady, left home and went to college in at the University of Washington, up in Seattle area. 1928 was her class. She was the class of 28 out of UW. And when she graduated, she got on a boat and took a teaching job in Anchorage, Alaska. And she met the son of the mayor up there. The mayor was Oscar Gill, and she met Bill Gill and got married. And after they got married, they went to this place called Healy Fork up in the middle of Alaska. And that's where they spent the Great Depression. He was the mine manager, and I think she was a teacher of sorts up there.
What kind of mine?
Coal, I believe. Coal, yeah. So kind of fun to throw that in to give a background of why they came to Manhattan Beach, because that's where they spent the 1930s, early 30s right there. So this was a record that I found that was the earliest thing that showed them in town, and I actually made some notes here because I know that nobody could read that, not even me. But it was very interesting to read what's on this 1940 census, because it gave a lot of information. So they're literally the first two names up there, Gill, William D., and Evelyn. And they lived at 213 43rd Street, so up in El Porto. And they rented that place for $40 a month. They were 33 years old, white, married. Bill was high school 4 years. Evelyn was college 4 years. He was born Alaska. She was born North Dakota. They were in Healy Fork for the 1935 census. Bill is working, Evelyn housework. Bill worked 40-hour weeks as a hydraulic mechanic in an aircraft facility. So somewhere here, was it McDonnell Douglas?
No, it was North American.
Oh, North American. So he was working at North American. See, that's why we got you out for this. And then he earned $1,678 a year.
Whoa.
So I got the calculator out. That's $139.83 a month. But if you're paying $40 in rent, you got $100 left over. You're doing all right. So that's some very interesting stuff in there. And then that led me to being able to prove my family into this thing that the South. It's called the South Bay Cities Genealogy Society. They meet down in Torrance.
Really?
And they created this group called First Families of the South Bay. If you lived in one of these cities, so they kind of, South Bay is pretty liberal here, all the way from Playa del Rey, Wilmington, and all sorts of things. But if you're in one of those cities and you can prove prior to 1940, you can be in the First Families of South Bay. I was certificate number 11, so I'm the 11th person in the group. I don't think there's been a meeting, but anyway, it was fun to get the certificate anyway. Oh, hi, Lolly. So this was fun too. This showed when they started shopping around for a house. This was actually part of the title insurance policy. And so a plot map showing obviously West Railroad Drive, East Railroad Drive. That's 6th Street going up right there. You can sort of see your neighborhood there, Mark. And
yeah, there's the dog leg on 6th.
So the dark square would be the one that they were buying. It's 6th and John right there, at the northwest corner. So are you guys actually above the...
We're right where the dog leg is, at the top.
So you were in this map, though.
So I'm at the northeast corner of that dog leg, and he's on the southeast corner.
Okay. I got it.
The lots aren't shown.
Right.
We're on those two corners.
Sorry, wish I had your lots. One of the first pictures as they were looking at the property, that's a 1941 shot looking up John Street right there, probably standing on 6th Street. So that was what wild Manhattan Beach looked like back in the day. That's pretty much untouched sand with weeds growing, basically. So a great shot. I love that one.
Yeah, it is.
So do you think that was weeds, or was that the natural vegetation at the time?
Yeah,
Probably a little
difference.
both.
Or well, no. I think there's a difference, because was it indigenous plants? Do you think, or was it introduced stuff?
I believe that would be indigenous, but I am not 100%
Because
sure.
I don't know if it was ever like planted. Was it ever farmed?
I don't
Beans.
think so. The hill
They grow
section.
beans, I
Not the
think.
sand.
What'd you say?
Not the
Beans.
sandy
There's a
area.
bean field somewhere.
Farming was east of Sepulveda.
All I remember is ice plant everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know. So,
The ice plant was introduced,
Oh
right?
yeah, that was,
Yeah,
the
ice plant is not
Neptune
indigenous.
Club introduced that.
But I'm pretty sure that this was not farmed, that this was just sand dunes that had grown wild.
That's not the way it looks.
Are you getting me on there as I walk around?
I thought you just wanted to
From
screen
about
and
there.
you.
Sand dunes
Yeah,
all
of course,
north
yes,
of-
please.
But you're like walking around.
Yeah,
so
okay, well tell me when I get out or move it.
No,
can't, 'cause you're-
that's why I was thinking.
So anyway, love those pictures. There's a couple of them. This one's stepping back a little bit from that intersection, looking up again. That's John Street, and that's 6th Street going off that way. Gary was telling me he thought that that might be one of the very first photographs of one of those signs in town.
Those posts, yeah.
So we'll have to work on that one to see if we can't find anything. But that's about 1941.
You know, those posts.
How far up? Where is John?
Yeah.
How far up?
They're still.
So that's 6th Street going right there. So 6th and John.
6th and John. Okay,
Right.
I was thinking up more like 10th, 12th Street, because all this
Those are the
north
roads.
of that was
I
cornfield
think
and
Artwork Valley.
haystacks. Not like this.
Okay.
In the late
Pier-
20s
pier.
and 30s, when I played there and lived there, we played in the haystacks and cornfields.
So, did you guys hear that? That Anita over here, one of our longest residents in town, well, the longest resident in town, she's got 90 years in our city, is saying that they had some cornfields growing in the north part of town.
But
You said cornfields in the north part of town, right?
yeah, after we lived right off of Marine
Uh-huh.
on Walnut,
Uh-huh.
and all that clear over to Manhattan Beach Boulevard was in haystacks, cornfield, and gardens, Japanese flower gardens.
So would this hill section right here have ever been planted?
It'd be more like like this then, the hill section.
Okay, so she's saying it's possible they might have tried to grow something around there.
North of there.
Here's another shot. Now this one's kind of from the back part of the lot looking down John Street. And again, just the wild vegetation there in the sands.
It's cool.
But that's another fabulous picture.
So that's all sand. Any dirt you see today was brought in.
Yeah, yeah, that's all sand. There was no dirt.
That's an ancient sand dune.
And then, as you see the papers going around, I passed a binder around that actually has these documents in there. Thrilled that my grandparents held on to this stuff. This is the actual grant deed from 1941, December 3rd, 1941. It still has the stamps on there and everything. It's fabulous. And then, of course, I'm sure most of you are aware of this, but back in those days, if you read the grant deed, it says that the following restrictions and reservations, this property shall not be sold, leased, or rented to a person not of the white or Caucasian race, excepting that they are in household employ of the owner or tenant of said property actually residing therein. And then it says if it's found to be that somebody not of white or Caucasian buys the house, it will revert back to the other owner. So I was shocked when I found that. I quickly learned from other people that it was very common around Los Angeles area during that time, and that it subsequently became illegal to have those words in there, and it's meaningless. But it was pretty shocking when I first read that. I thought, oh my God, I thought maybe it was specific to our house. So I was really flipped out at the beginning. But,
And the fun thing about this is it was $10. Robbie, how much is that property worth right now?
well,
On that, your mom's old house?
Yeah.
well, hold on. That $10 I think is to execute the grant deed. I think that's probably a
That's when
fee.
they bought it.
Well, consideration of $10, grant 2. I mean, it looks like the grant deed,
No,
and
it's
for
not a
$10.
That's filing fee, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think
I
that's
don't
the
know.
the
Well,
right
whatever.
house.
Tax
It's
stamps.
still pretty inexpensive.
Yeah. Yes.
Mhm.
Of course.
How come how come, Anita, you didn't buy 20 of those?
She can't do it. All right. This was the actual construction contract on it. So here it's saying that I believe the contractor lived at 605 8th Street, and here he is contracting to build a 6-room house with a detached 2-car garage underneath. And it talks about which lot it is, and then some sort of plans were filed with the American Mutual Building and Loan Association, and there's going to be 5 equal installments of $1,040. So the price to build the 6-room house was $5,200,
And it's a big house.
and it's a big house. You'll see some great pictures coming up. But that's definitely a fun one, showing how much it cost to build the house back then.
Yeah.
This showed that they actually took a loan out to buy the house, and the loan was for $4,200. So maybe that means they put $1,000 down.
Look at that.
So I think this picture was right around when it was done, because it looks like it's from up above in the picture window or something, looking down. But it's a very early on picture showing still that John Street going down there is a dirt road, and definitely shows great placement of the sign over there, Gary, in the corner. That was Joe Hill's house.
Mandel at the time.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was her married name was Hill?
Yeah, Mandel was her maiden name.
And she bought it by herself before she was married?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I remember her a little bit as a child, but she died when I was pretty young.
Yeah, her and Mom were very, very close friends.
So Hermosa looks a lot more built up.
Well, at least down by the sand, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an older city.
But that's a great shot there. Even in color, my goodness, the thing was in color.
Yeah.
Right. Great shot.
Yeah, I love that one. That's a great shot.
Is that on a slide or a negative? Did you get that?
That's a picture. I think it's in there.
Do you still have the negative or slide?
No, I don't have the negative, but I have the picture in
Yeah.
there. So early building stuff here. I think my grandma's wearing the white hat up in the doorway. And I'm not sure this was their car. I want to say at one point she told me it was or something, but I can't quite remember. Uh-oh, wrong way. Here's another picture of it being built. Another picture. That's a great one there too. Gary, this is the one I was mentioning where now there's also a sign on the other corner. So this sign is on the northeast corner and the other sign was on the southwest corner. So it seems to be that there's 2 signs at this intersection.
That's where Napolitano's house is right there, to the right of the sign.
Right, yeah.
James.
Yes,
What year was this war built?
43.
That's during the war.
Yeah, well, early part, yeah.
It was very difficult to get building materials at that time because my dad was the contractor.
Interesting.
Building,
Well, 43 I think is when it's completed, so maybe 42 was more like when it was being built. Maybe that made a difference.
James.
Yes.
June.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So my dad married June's niece,
Okay.
and then they lived in Manhattan Beach also. So our 2 families were together all the time.
But you know, one comment about building in the South Bay during the war, there might have been some leniency because of all the growth in aircraft manufacturing, and they needed to have housing for employees.
Good point.
So yeah, did you hear that, Don? Mark said because there was so much aerospace industry in town here, they may have been making sure that there was housing for those workers.
On that point,
Aircraft
my
manufacturing.
father built some stores on Manhattan Beach
I
Boulevard.
don't think they had gone to space yet.
Not quite.
And they were
They're still bucking rivets.
war years.
Ah, by rule, by law.
I'm not sure of that, but I do know that there are showers
Uh-huh. So Don's father built some commercial property on Manhattan Beach Boulevard down there near Manhattan Avenue in the 1939, but was made by rule, I guess, to turn it into housing for workers during the 40s, during the war. So to your point.
Yeah. Because Douglas was going strong, North
Right.
American Aviation, that's where they
Right.
made the B-25s. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on.
So this is it, I think, pretty much done. Backyard sort of coming together. That was the days when you actually had a front yard and a backyard. For me, I remember as a kid going back there, it was like a forest. And you'd find old rusty beer cans back there. I don't know, people threw them over the fence or...
Robbie
did it. I literally started a beer can collection from the backyard here at Grandma's place.
Okay.
That was a neat yard too. It was terraced. It had 3 terraces.
Yeah.
And each one of them was almost another lot. And so we had, as a kid, we had a ball back there. All trees and we had little bike paths back there. It was great.
It was an adventure, it really was,
Oh, yeah.
just to go in the
I'm
backyard.
wondering what if that's
What?
what that structure is.
The white stuff here?
Kind of
Yeah.
where the roof comes down. It looks like it's a tower of some sort, like a
There was
derrick,
a
like a
porch.
derrick. I don't know if that was like a derrick, like
She
an oil
built
derrick.
she built a sun porch.
But do you see what I mean? Above that porch,
There's some
there's
kind of peak
it looks
coming
like a
out of
little
that.
peak, like a
no,
derrick. That might have been
Oh,
an oil derrick, or
Is that the water tower?
well, I think the water tower would have been to the left, to the
Okay,
east.
Right.
Yes, it was.
Maybe it's an umbrella?
over there.
So it might have been an oil derrick down in Hermosa or something.
Could have been.
Yeah.
It looks too close to be Hermosa, but I see what you're saying, and I'm not sure. Gary, you getting that?
I am. There, you know, there was, I've sort of lost track of the years, but there was exploration for oil
Yeah.
in Manhattan Beach. They just haven't found any here.
What's in the upper left side there?
That's what we're talking about, is that round thing
Right
right
over
there.
there, right.
That looks a bit like a water tower.
Yeah,
but,
Like a water tower.
No, I was talking about in the
You were
right.
talking to the right, on the right
Yeah.
side.
Oh,
right.
sorry, I thought you were talking about way over here.
No,
Looks like it's
on
coming
where the
off the
sunroom
floor.
is. See where the sunscreen
Ah,
is?
Maybe
yeah,
it's
that
an umbrella.
definitely looks like an oil derrick down in
It looks
Hermosa
like a
Beach. It
derrick,
does. Sorry, I was off looking here, which kind of looks like
A
a
water tower.
water tower.
Yeah.
All right, now I see what you're talking about. This is why we do this stuff, to share all the information. I never noticed that before in the picture.
I think that water tower was
Yeah,
on
they-
Second Street.
They drove,
Top of the
drove a
hill.
bunch of
At the time, that's where it was?
That's
Okay.
what that is.
Yeah, that's
Alright.
the highest point in town.
There's another shot of it there.
By the way, I like your derby shirt.
Well, I'm going to a derby party.
Here's the front part after they planted the garden. You can see the palm tree there.
Wow.
There it is, all done with the family car in the garage.
Wow.
Another palm tree planted there. It looks like they put a little bit of dirt in the front yard.
Oh, yeah.
Found it.
How long did that house last before they tore it down?
I've got some pictures of it coming down, but I think it was 79.
79.
79 it came down. It was one of the first ones on the hill to be bulldozed. This was a card, a family Christmas card that they created after they were in their home, and it wasn't long after that Bill passed away. So in the home, my dad's dad actually passed away, some sort of a blood clot that moved the heart or something like that. And so my dad was 2, so 1947 he passed away. Grandma Gill had to go back to work as a teacher. She found a job right away at Center School and was teaching there for a few years, and then went on to teach at
186th Street.
186th Street School in Gardena, I think that is. And then she did that for a good 20 or so years, maybe 30, and then retired as a teacher. Now this is, I have actual movie footage of them building the house here.
Wow.
My grandfather owned a camera, and Took
Wow.
some shots. It's, when you blow it up this
That's
big on
kinda
the screen, it doesn't look
downtown.
that great, but it gives you an idea. That's looking down
That's
there. That's
Catalina.
Joe
That's
Hill's
Catalina.
house right in
That's
front.
PV.
That's P.
Catalina right
That's
there.
PD, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
This guy's smoking a pipe and digging in the yard.
That's that weed.
This is literally them framing up the house at 6th and John.
Wow.
My dad said that a lot of these guys were my grandpa's friends that were helping him build it. That's my grandma in the middle. There they are enjoying the view.
It's going up.
That's John Street going up.
What would be the house number on that?
825 6th Street.
Did they?
But
did
it's
they,
changed now to a John Street address.
did they use
I
that
think that's
peaked attic for a room? Seems like a pretty,
No. Could you even climb up there into that attic?
No.
It was just wasted space.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a lot of room.
Well, insulation.
I'm getting ready for the
Oh
snow.
wait, there is.
James,
Yes.
how old was your dad at this time?
Not born yet at this time. This
Oh,
would have
you
been
weren't born?
42, 43.
Yeah,
Dad
I
was
was-
born 45.
I was born in 45, so I wasn't a part of this.
Did they use the fireplace for primary heating, or was there
Every
gas?
day she burned the mail.
And was there gas? Was there gas coming up to the?
I don't think
No,
it was
there was
gas.
no gas.
Wow.
Yeah, that was where the junk mail went every day.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure did.
So it's amazing that I've got this footage from 1943-ish of them building, and then there's one more little video here that I pulled out too. That we even slowed it down a little bit, but someone took the camera and just sort of panned across the view, and
Sitting south.
again, kind of
PV.
fuzzy and blurry as it's
That's
blown
south.
up. But
West.
Yeah, that's PV.
Yeah, you'll see PV
And then
in
there's
there.
Catalina.
so that's all PV. Then Catalina's Catalina.
Catalina, I'm sorry about
Okay.
that.
And then there's an interesting point here that there's a bunch of smoke coming up from there.
Yeah.
And somebody told me they thought they burned all the trash out of Catalina Island,
That makes sense. We burned trash in the 50s.
right?
I had an incinerator in the backyard.
Yeah.
We burned our trash in the mid-50s.
It's coming back, I understand.
Burning trash. This was something I found at the Historical Society. It was a 1946 telephone directory, and I opened it up, and sure enough, William D. Gill there, 825 6th Street, with the phone number 6764.
Wow.
And then here's a couple family shots around the house. That's my dad and his sister there in the bottom left. My grandma up there in the top corner. Do you know who's with her in that one?
I think it's Gracie Allen. not the famous Gracie Allen.
My dad up in the right corner there, and my is that
That's Foster Caricott.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like Rupert Listener, Robbie. What do you think?
Too long ago, man. I can't-
Yeah. And I'm not sure who. That could be my sister. That
So-
could be Mary.
So the one on the left, Karikoff, they built a house in 1950 right on the west side of Grandma's house, and they were there forever until about the turn of the century there, and they finally all passed away and sold the house. That was a funny story because that house went for $3.5 million to the people behind so that they couldn't block the view. And I thought, that's crazy. Well, then they recently sold it for twice as much. So blocked the view for a couple of decades, and doubled their money. So not as crazy as I thought. And then the Listener one was the next property down. They owned a triple lot there on the corner. And they had, from what I understand, an Olympic-sized swimming pool on their property that you couldn't even see. It was back behind there somewhere.
They got trees. Wow.
Right.
Really?
They were literally the keeper of all the birds in the neighborhood for decades. All that came down, and they built 2 mansions with a pool behind it and a little house. And so yeah.
Was it Civic?
And here's a funny little thing. That's Dad over there on the right, all dolled up. And an interesting piece about him getting run over in front of the house by one of Grandma's friends.
Wasn't hurt though.
So tell that story.
Well, I was coming home from a Cub Scout meeting at Tim Smith's house, who you may all know. His mother was our den mother, and I was coming down, and I was crossing 2nd Street on Poinsettia, and I said, oh, I got plenty of time to make it before that car gets down here, and I guess I was wrong. When I woke up, you know, kind of described under there, my head was like that far from the back wheel, and I had a big gaping hole in my leg. And I'm just laying there, you know, and I came to, so to speak, and they had to track Mom down in the grocery store in downtown Manhattan Beach to let her know that I was in the hospital. So it was pretty freaky, but unharmed except for 13 stitches in my leg, which was unbelievably painful in those days. So.
Which hospital did you go to? South Bay?
South Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't the only one, but it was the post.
That was pretty much it.
So yeah, Jerry Alcho.
Yeah.
Anybody know that name?
I remember that name.
I can't remember his mom's name, but Jerry was in my grade, and it was his mother, who was a very close friend of my mom's, that hit me, and she was freaky now. So it was a pretty incredible experience.
And I guess that stuff wasn't too uncommon back then, because if you've ever heard Russ Lesser's story, I think it was his mom was being picked up on 4th Street, the alley behind the house, by a friend. They were going to a wedding or something, and she got run over by the friend who was picking her up and died. So small town stuff, I suppose. So this is something else that I found here. This would be Center School 1958 graduation. So Dad's class, he's listed right here as graduate on the right-hand side. Robert Dorman Gill right there. So this was the Center School's program there as they did their 8th grade graduation in the Maricosta School gymatorium.
Yeah. Whatever that was.
Right?
The gymatorium.
I noticed in the upper right there it says presentation of class Mr. Foster Begg.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, my grandmother was teaching there when he was there as a principal. And one time, Dr. Norvell, who I invited today, too bad she didn't come, but Dr. Norvell asked my grandmother what she thought of Foster Begg, because he's a legend, I guess mostly for fundraising. But my grandmother got this scowl on her face and kind of just shook her head.
There's a under administration underneath Begg is Robinson. Is the same Robinson School?
Yes.
Yeah. And my favorite all-time 8th grade teacher, Milton Rudd. Anybody remember him?
Yeah.
That guy wasn't he incredible?
Yeah.
You know how you answer those secret questions that nobody knows when you want to get your password
Yeah, I
back?
remember that.
He was my favorite teacher. Not that you should ever remember that. I kind of freaked out my passcode. But he was such a great guy.
So this is 58?
Yes, 58.
Yeah, I graduated 59. It's the same
Yeah.
center. Yeah.
Now, this is a picture I found on Facebook. That's the class of 58 Center School. It's such bad resolution that you can't make a face out. But
Do we ever look that good? Look at that.
That's a lot of kids.
Women are, oh.
now, it may have been like the whole Center School at the time. I don't know.
That would be the class.
That would be the class.
That'd be the
Huh?
class.
Okay.
Probably had 4 classes, 4 or 5 classes of
One,
kids
two,
in a year.
So, good stuff, but we weren't able to zoom in enough to figure out who's who, but it was a great picture. This was kind of fun, a little newspaper clipping. That's my dad in the upper left. I couldn't figure out why he had trombone because he was a trumpet player, but I guess that was just for the picture.
Robbie's brother, Jamie, and I played a trumpet duet at that PTA function or whatever it was, and we didn't get booed off the stage, but it was quite fun.
So Jamie was a trumpet player too?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Some clips that I pulled off of the old movies of my dad heading down with his Bing surfboard.
Wow.
I actually got to meet Bing recently in Hermosa Beach and got him to sign a hat for me and told him that he was a legend at our house.
You know, you can, on that board, there's a serial number, and if you send him the serial number, he'll send you the board birth certificate out of his logbook.
Wow.
I don't know if you still have the board.
No.
No.
Yeah.
No,
There you go.
it's gone.
It was in the Caracos garage?
No, I thought it was in our old house, and it just disappeared.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't.
I never saw it after I was a kid.
There it is.
Did anybody, especially up in the hill section there, Lee Beer's family? You went to school with Lee, didn't you, Robbie? Lee Beer, Nancy Beer.
I don't recognize the name.
Okay, they're right on the corner of Poinsettia and maybe 3rd or something like that. He made my first surfboard, and when he was, a young guy, and so it was we surfed a lot, and in those days, and I had that surfboard till I was 25 years old.
Wow. Big balsa stringer in the middle.
And
Yeah.
there was a great story
Heavy too. It was really heavy.
Is this the after insurance one or the before insurance
Oh,
one?
this is after.
Okay, so the way you got this was what?
Well, I got run into, I had a 1950 Ford with a 1955 Chevy engine in it. Do you remember that car, Robbie? That brown piece of junk that I had? In any event, we took the back seat out, we stuffed surfboards in there when we went places, and we were going someplace, and some lady with a dog climbing all over her ran into us and smashed the surfboards up. There's 3 of us. And so, being the upstanding American citizens that we are, we smashed our surfboards up a little bit more to try to get some insurance recovery. Well, they didn't even look at the darn thing and gave us a whole brand new surfboard. So that was when I got it.
Nice. Which shop did you buy it out of?
Bing's, the one down on PCH.
In Hermosa?
Yeah, in Hermosa.
So about this time, of course, my grandfather passed away. Grandma was back to teaching, and then her parents decided to move down from North Dakota to Manhattan Beach to move in and sort of help with the kids and whatnot. As Dad says, she was not much help. She liked to hit everybody with the cane.
I think they were escaping North Dakota winters.
Right? They wanted to get away from the winter, right? But when she turned 101, I guess she was in all the newspapers as the oldest Social Security recipient in the South Bay or Los Angeles or something like that.
Bay.
South Bay. And so a little piece about her, and my dad laughs because it talks about the love of children helping me grow old, and he's like, the love of children, she smacked me with the cane all the time.
Yeah, we tormented that poor lady. She was, she had 2 canes, she had 2 gigantic hearing aids, and she still couldn't hear a thing. And I played the trumpet and the drums, and I may have blown it a little bit harder sometimes, and somehow she used to hear my sister and I, because we were sleeping in the same room, and she would hear us whispering, and she was babysitting, and she'd come storming in, and whomping, and we'd fold our legs up, whomp on the bed with the cane, and we're, no. So, but it was terrible. We were really nasty. She lived to 103.
Wow.
Yeah. And here it says she was the daughter of the Civil War Union soldier.
Union, okay, cool.
So good stuff there. This is her when she hit that milestone and the oldest Social Security recipient. They made her an honorary chief of police in the city of Redondo Beach, 1963. I am not sure if that was the mayor at the time presenting her that little thing with the actual little police pin on there. I actually have that whole thing at home.
Cool.
He was the mayor. You recognize him? Very good.
February 6th.
Yeah, that was my uncle and my aunt with my mom up there.
And an interesting piece about him, the uncle up there was out there when they first started creating streets and stuff out at Salton Sea. So when that became a resort town, he was the one out there doing all sorts of, I don't know, surveying.
He was the main architect developer for the Salton Sea.
Yeah.
So, interesting stories he had.
What year would that be?
And then just a quick side note on my mom's side, she too has been around here her whole life. This is her grandpa on the right. When he came from Sweden, he lived on Jefferson Boulevard and started something called Washington Van and Storage. And so this is probably a late 30s, early 40s photo of my great-grandfather on the right there with his business.
Barefoot kid.
And that's my mom's mom out at Catalina Island, probably a late 40s picture, maybe early 50s. Yep. And then that's my mom up there. She was hanging out at 24th Street. And I thought maybe somebody in the crowd would know who some of these people were, but my dad right away said he knew who they were. So
anybody recognize John Wall, who's now passed on, who's laying down, and pointing right above my ex-wife's head is Jim Hoke, who's still around. I see him on Facebook a lot. He's apparently a big Fisher person. So, and I wasn't quite sure who the rest of them were in the background. But yeah, John Wall and Jim Hoke, I mean, there was no doubt in my mind.
So that would have been probably late 50s.
Yeah.
Down at 24th Street in Manhattan Beach. My mom's group. Here's my dad graduating from Miracosta. I grabbed that picture there out of the Historical Society's collection of books there, and then I actually have my dad's little graduation announcement there.
Anybody know Al Glick?
Yeah.
Sitting right next to me in that picture.
Where would you bowl at?
South Bay Bowl.
Where's that?
Yeah, we were just talking about this on the way here. You know the Hope Chapel that's going to become a grocery store again?
That used to be a bowling alley.
That used to be a bowling alley.
South
I didn't
Bay
know
Bowl.
that either.
Because there was I think at that time, what year was that?
62.
So at that time, did you ever go to the Rose Bowl in El Segundo?
For what?
Bowling.
No.
No.
No, right here we had a.
Yeah, we had it right there.
Bowling alley.
That was where our
We
meeting
might have gone
was.
bowling. I mean,
They might have gotten around with tournaments or something. Who knows?
No. We
I didn't know there
were
was a
back
bowling club. I missed that.
So yeah, that was a new one to me, Mark. I was like, what? That was a bowling
It
alley?
was a cool bowling alley.
This is a classic shot here.
That's
Oh my,
going.
56?
Yep.
56
That's going
Chevy.
up to our street.
That's right. That's looking up 6th Street, your direction.
That's the old house.
And that's Napolitano's house.
Old,
still.
Right.
the old
Right
house.
there.
It was the
Oh, I
Ray's
No,
house.
that's still the house.
What's
Yeah, it's still there.
That's the garage and everything.
They
Still
just
like that.
they redid it to the
Yeah.
delight of the Ray's family, who thought it was going to be bulldozed immediately.
Yeah. And then,
Well, he was a city councilman, wasn't he? Sandy Ray?
He was a judge. I don't know that he
well, I
was.
think he was big. I think if you're,
Party, he was a.
he was high up in,
What do you call it?
The election?
he was high up in the Republican Party,
He was a judge. I know that much.
and his wife was stricken.
I always thought my entire life they had one of the best views in all of Manhattan Beach out of those windows. I never saw those blinds open my whole life.
yeah.
He's kind of a recluse.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, absolutely. Well, remember, she was as tall as you are, Robbie.
Yeah.
She was a very tall lady, and her daughters were equally as tall.
He was in a Trinity downtown L.A. and they used to get chauffeur
You
down
know,
there. I guess it was his business.
In the
He
desert.
had
where
some partners. They
Yeah.
would chauffeur him
they had
down
doors
Los
from that
Angeles.
house when they did the remodel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we
Huh,
put
yeah, not for me to ride.
That was only a few years ago that
Big
he
outfit,
finally
too.
passed away, and
French doors.
the house sold
They really
to,
was
to
solid.
Napolitano's girlfriend, and she redid it instead of bulldozing it. So it's very nice. Looks very nice.
Same palm tree?
So
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's the, and then wait, you'll see another picture coming up. But yeah, that's that little baby palm tree that they put in. Then along comes me, born at Queen of Angels Hospital downtown Los Angeles, which isn't there anymore. Anybody else Queen of Angels?
Why?
All 5 of my children.
Oh,
were.
great.
She was in my ex-wife was in a capitated program with, and that was the hospital that they went to. Because we certainly wouldn't have come all the way down there.
Yeah, that's
What's a
long-
But
capitated
it
program?
didn't take
It's
that
an
long to get
HMO.
there.
It's,
Oh.
it's the same thing as an HMO.
So that's in our house at Voorhees, which is coming up here in a second. But great picture of Dad.
And Robbie, you remember Mike Lang? Mike painted that picture in the background.
Oh, really?
Why is your date hashtagged out?
I had posted it somewhere, and I wanted to erase my birthday.
Oh.
Is that you in the blue jacket?
Yeah,
Well,
that's
you
me.
were cute once.
Oh, thank you. Thank once, son.
You
I
got
was-
the same hat, right?
I was hoping that Mike Lang's cousin was going to come, Sherilyn.
Carolyn?
Yeah,
Saunders?
I invited her to come, and
Huh.
I'm surprised I didn't make it.
Look at that condensed milk
You still
advertising.
see them right there in your neighborhood over there.
Oh.
Russ Saunders and
Yeah,
Sherilyn
Russ,
Saunders.
Russ and Sherilyn Saunders.
Yeah.
He was a couple of years behind you, I think, Robbie.
So that's me hanging out at Longfellow in Dad's lap, and then that's Lori and Rainey and me hanging out at Longfellow.
Wow.
My cousins.
66.
That's me on my first surfing lessons. That's me at Sixth and John.
And the other palm tree.
The other palm tree. Remember there were
Yeah.
two that were planted. And that's now, of course, the Karakoff's house next door there. Of course, everything now would be all built in by then. So then we bought a house over on Voorhees for what, 30 grand?
26.5. You sold it to
Can
me,
you-
Robbie. Was it 26.5?
Something like that.
Can you
Jim.
pull out your records and?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that wasn't too
Jim.
long ago.
100 block.
It's over by well.
Costa. It's right across the street from the
1317 over by
Costa
Costa.
baseball field.
I didn't know Robbie was the agent on that
Oh, yeah.
purchase. Oh.
Okay.
Not just his dad, but Robbie.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I didn't know
So
that.
what year did you buy it?
Bought it in
68,
69
That's when I moved. That's
69 or 70.
Yeah, that price sounds right.
So that house still stands. This is a recent picture in the upper left corner here. When I analyzed this picture with that picture, it's the same yucca tree, but it's really small here. And that little brick thing was right there, just as it is right there in the corner. So not much has changed there in all the years.
Hey, Jim, can you back up one? So that garage, I think, is still there.
Yeah, the Karakoff's house
Oh,
is
yeah.
still there.
Yeah.
It did just sell. The guys who bought it from behind for $3.5 million did just sell it about a year ago. So, but it has not been torn down or anything. So that's about a 1950 house. Same time I think as like the Ray's house was about a 1950s house. So.
Ooh,
I was
nice.
going to say about the next door house.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. So when I went and took this picture, the house next door was for sale for about 1.1, I think, and it sold, and then it got bulldozed. And so I was interested to see if they were going to be able to put something up and make a profit, because if they did, the whole neighborhood would start to go. And sure enough, it is a big, beautiful house. It covers most of the deep lot, and it sold for, I forget what the number was, but I want to say it was in the threes, I think.
Wow.
So
Really?
they made a profit, and
Yeah.
I'm sure now there's going to be a chain reaction in that area of all these old original 50s homes coming down.
Whatever the family dies.
That's Dad's Alpine
Nice
Sunbeam.
car.
Sunbeam Alpine.
So what
Oh, yeah.
intersection is that?
So that's Sixth and John on the left, and that's at the Voorhees house there on the right.
Nice car.
6th and John.
And then some fun house pictures there at on the Voorhees house. And then, do you remember June and Joe having the German Shepherd?
Yes.
That was
Haji.
Haji. That's right. Haji was the brother of Brandy. So we had sibling German Shepherds.
Haji.
Now this is some of the little things that I've had. I don't remember too much about them. I don't remember what Tiny Tots was. But looks like it was at Alondra Park. Here was some swimming lessons at Mary Ann's. I've seen lots of people talk about that. I think that was right there on Manhattan Beach Boulevard.
Yeah.
Look how it's spelled polywog.
Yeah. Well, but I was tested as a polywog, so it's not Polywog Park that they're referring to, but it's a misspelling. Safety City, don't quite remember what that was either, but you see Ronald Reagan's signature in there as the governor of the state of California. And here I am on the left here receiving one of these certificates at something.
Maybe that's the graduation of preschool?
Maybe. That was one of my penny camp pictures. That's me in the plaid shirt, bottom left there. So that would have been 1970 at penny camp. Here's about a 1970 picture from the house looking down John Street again. Joe Hill's house still there. You can hardly get in or out of any part of that house.
Yeah.
Here's the tail end of that palm tree.
Wow.
So that's how big it got, and it got a little crazy, so it came down. So that's it without the palm tree. And then this is about the time that, so my grandmother was burglarized. Somebody climbed in through the side window and stole a bunch of stuff, and then Grandma wasn't happy and comfortable there anymore by herself, so she sold it to Dad.
Wow. Well, there was the Brysons, Alita Bryson, that lived 2 houses up from the Wilsons, and she was a very attractive girl, probably a couple years younger than I was. And she had a party one night with all of her baseball friends, and they had a big lemon tree in the back of their house. That, if you'll remember, that whole other side of Mom's house was all windows out there. All of them just were decimated with lemons from these kids. And they didn't, whether they didn't know it, who knows. But she called me up. I was living in Cleveland, Ohio. And she called me up and said, really late at night, my time. And she said, I got to get out of here. I said, whoa, wait a minute. So I found out about that. And then she did get broken into. And they took food and weird stuff.
Well, I got her silver too.
Well, okay, all right. So she said, that's it, I'm done. And so I bought it from her, moved into it, had Timmy Smith redo the kitchen and redo the bedroom, and then I moved from there to San Francisco, and Norma Wilson, Jamie's ex-wife, her and her son moved in to the house and rented it for a couple of years, and then I wanted to buy something up in the Bay Area, so I had to sell it. So that was in probably 1978 or so.
And so here's what happened after it was sold.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was sad, all right. I invited the family that lives there now. They've been there for, I think, 30 years or so, and very nice. They let me take all the children through there, my sister's kids and my kids, and we all did a tour inside this is what it looks like now. So we got a full tour of it and all that. The whole, the front part here, they actually have like a nice garden that's sort of walled in there, where our house used to be, and their house is mostly in sort of the backyard. But
so when was that built?
So about 1980.
80. Then that would have been the first teardown. And
it was about one of the first teardowns, yeah. And then and they did the whole double lot, and then that's when everybody started doing the whole double lot build outs. And but they did a very nice job with this one, keeping it very low profile. I'm sure they could have gone a lot higher. And so it was very nicely done that way. And I'm sure if it gets sold again, it'll probably be bulldozed and somebody will be putting up something quite large. So after my grandmother was in that place and sold it and all that happened, she moved over to a rental on 18th Street, rented from a friend of hers. And this is a little painting of the cute little house that was there at 308 18th Street. This is about, I guess this is already a 2-year-old photo. Somebody bought that and knocked it down. You can see that they're taking advantage of every possible square foot that they can with their build there. It's all done and looks nice, but you can see it's a monster.
He's almost done.
That makes sense.
That's me at 308 18th Street. My sister and little stepbrother there hanging out in front. This was a visit, so I was in the military, I was in the Air Force at this time and came back for a visit, and we just toured around real fast. So 1987 down by the pier, and 1987 right up by 6th and John there, that was their old house right there, and that's Grandma sitting in the car. This is when Grandma turned 90. She was in the Beach Reporter, giving a little background there. I got to throw in my piece. Gill is a great-great-granddaughter of a Revolutionary War veteran, the granddaughter of a Civil War veteran, and the daughter of a Spanish-American War veteran, and the grandmother of a U.S. Air Force veteran. She was a longtime Neptunian, and she's in this picture, upper left corner here, in 1956 as an usher for some event. You'll notice in that binder going around, there's a 50th anniversary of the Neptunian thing in there, and I think a 75th as well. When she turned 100, Nick Tell did a little presentation for her, did a little certificate from the city, and then Steve Napolitano helped me get this from the county. And then now we're into my era. This is Carol's neck of the woods there. That's Carol's house on the left, and I was renting on the bottom part of 125 2nd Street from 92 to 97, and had my Harley there, and we had a picnic table out front. Aunt June used to come for all of our Thanksgiving dinners that we would do outside on the picnic table. So that was a fabulous place to live for 5 years.
Yeah.
And when we moved out, somebody paid $750,000 for it. Didn't even look inside. They stepped on the roof, looked at the view, paid $750,000. We were booted out. We had a big 5th and final party where everybody wrote on the walls, and they knocked that place down. And then he tried to sell it in like 2010, put it back on the market in 2011. It finally sold for, I think, $3 million something. And I thought, my goodness, that's a lot of money, because it was still the recession, sort of. And a kind of high price for even the good times in that area. And then he bulldozed it. So in '98, it was turned into a brand new place. And then this guy bought it and bulldozed it. And if I have the story correctly, Carol, they didn't like the layout, even though it was a relatively new home. The layout needed changing, so they built a place for, it must have been at least $1 million build on the thing, so they're into this thing for $4 million, and I thought, my God, they're never, but then I learned that they paid cash, it wasn't their primary residence, they didn't care, it wasn't about money or anything. And then as I understand, they got divorced.
I think it was a little time after that, because the builders, they kept changing their plans, thought it was never going to get finished. And the husband said, you know, I'm giving you $70,000 and that's the end of it. She went beyond the $70,000 and said, don't tell the builder. It's like, I need my money. And so he found out, and the husband said, that's it. And then they got a divorce.
So the thing went up for sale. I'm trying to think of the date of this. Probably 2 or 3 years ago. So he bought it in 2011, bulldozed it, built it. It was done in like 12 or 13. I think it was like 2015 or 16 that it went back up for sale for $10 million. And it's sold for $9.999. And I thought, my God,
And they don't live in it either.
No, they don't live in it either.
They
Vacation home?
They visit. 1997 photograph of my wife and I down at the pier. That was good stuff. It was a foggy day, but it was fun. 2012, my sister and my wife Becca and I at the Centennial Parade. And if you weren't aware of it, I was the creator of the Centennial coin and was pushing that pretty big there in the year 2012 and had fun with all that. This is kind of fun. I was hoping my uncle was going to come today. He didn't make it, but he held on to a big elk fern plant that was in the back of Grandma's house, and he gave me a small piece of it, which eventually in my backyard got so big it fell off of its little holder thing. So I had to break it up and make little pieces of it too, but that's literally a descendant from Sixth John.
We still have it.
And then this is one of my favorite photographs of Manhattan Beach of all time here because yes, it's the pier and yes, it's the blimp, but that's Sage and Jade and I in the blimp.
Oh.
And a friend of mine ran down there to take the pictures for us. So that was fabulous.
Let's see, I understand they no longer allow passengers.
They do, but you can't buy a ticket.
Yeah,
You have to. They'll give them out to charities to auction off.
Yeah.
That's how we got this ride through a Daughters of the American Revolution charity luncheon. And then the only other way is if you know one of the pilots.
I see.
Yeah, you have a relationship with the pier.
Right.
Yeah, because I've been on, because I work for American, and American buys a lot of Goodyear products.
Ah, good.
So they let my office.
We had some nephews from Ohio, Goodyear, Ohio,
Right,
who had some outside, some pull when they were visiting us. They did the
Right.
ride, yeah.
So this, that's Spirit of America. About a year after we were in it, that one got decommissioned because they're building all these new higher tech blimps that are actually not blimps anymore. They're dirigibles, which would be a hard frame instead of like an inflatable. So this one got retired. And then we got Spirit of Innovation here, which was identical to this one. We had it for about a year and a half to 2 years, and now just recently got retired as well. And we do not have a blimp right now. And one of these dirigibles will be coming to us in October or November. So we will get the new high-tech blimp in fall. And then group shot down by the pier. My dad, his wife Deanne, my sister Tiffany, my mom, and the 4 kids all there, and Becca as well. So and the dog. Good group shot, Buddy in the picture. Yeah. And then I wanted to run this by you guys. This is some of Grandma's footage, and of course it's hard to see it here, but I don't know where it is. There's a bunch of playground footage that I couldn't identify. My dad wasn't able to identify. My grandma couldn't remember what it was.
When do you think it is?
How old?
Yeah, when is this?
Well, this will be my grandmother's footage, so at the latest in the 50s.
Looks like Pacific.
I think it's Pacific.
Yeah, that.
Awfully hard to tell.
Back then, we didn't have nearly as much foliage.
Somebody did think martyrs.
I was gonna say that, but I don't recognize any buildings back there.
Because the ball field was built in the 50s.
And I don't know why my grandmother would have been at martyrs.
Oh, that's better.
I don't think it's Live Oak.
Because the
Those
houses,
homes are
yeah, across the street from Pacific has those homes.
Well, they're in uniform.
Huh, it's not centered. You see how the grade, there's a grade up to the house?
Yeah, there's a grade up to the, yeah.
That was probably where she taught.
You know, it's possible, except for my grandfather wouldn't have been around, and I do not believe my grandmother would have been operating the camera, right, Dad? Would she have gone to 186 school?
Karams.
So we weren't able to figure out this last couple of clips here that.
What about Marine Park?
Huh.
I'm not sure. Is that a big
Well,
wall?
you know, across from Hollywood.
What about?
Manhattan Heights.
Manhattan Heights, yeah.
You can't see the ocean from there.
And
Just
you
wondered
kind of
back
thought
then there
Manhattan
wasn't
Heights too,
many
didn't you, Heather?
Look at that softball field right up against
The
the
school, you mean?
So there is a small chance it's 186th Street School over in Gardena where my grandmother was teaching, but
That makes more sense.
I just don't know who would have been running the camera because it wouldn't have been her.